Holy shit. I just saw Avengers Infinity War, and that's literally the first thing I have to say right out the gate. Holy shit. Yeah, not bad for a first movie review on YouTube. But, yeah, this movie, I think it's safe to say that Marvel, this whole Marvel Cinematic Universe concept that has been going literally for 10 years, has really paid off, and everything has just kind of worked in some way. Some films have been better than others. The less said about Age of Ultron, the better. But when you have something like Guardians of the Galaxy, or Iron Man, or even Civil War, and more recently Black Panther, these films really, really work. And going into Infinity War, there was a lot of trepidation, because this movie is a lot, and I'm not going to go into spoilers in this review, just because I'm seeing this the Friday of opening weekend, and I don't want to ruin the movie for people who haven't seen it. Maybe I'll do a spoiler video later on. But this movie was really, really good. And it worked on a lot of different ways. The first thing I think really worked well is that, alright, you have all these characters in this movie. Literally every single major character who has shown up in an MCU film, with the exception, I don't think I'm giving away spoilers here, Hawkeye is completely absent, and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man isn't here. I'm assuming because Ant-Man versus the Wasp is playing a part in this story. So it was a little disappointing that not everyone is showing up in this story, but that's neither here nor there. But you're dealing with a lot of different characters. You know, you have Iron Man, that side of the story. You have Guardians of the Galaxy, which is mostly pure comedy, and Thor, which has gotten progressively sillier over time, and Black Panther, which is really a drama. And, you know, you're dealing with all these kind of different characters that all coexist and kind of have their own lives. You know, they intersect every once in a while. And you have to find a way to make this whole big crossover thing work. And something about it in this film in particular just worked really well. I honestly don't know how to explain it, because for the most part, these are characters who have all interacted before. Black Panther was in Civil War before his big breakout film this year. Doctor Strange interacted with Thor briefly in Ragnarok. Though, actually, him and Robert Downey Jr., Benedict Cumberbatch, and those two work really well off each other. And that was actually one of the great things about this film. I love watching those two. And especially throwing Tom Holland in there, they're like a great three-person dynamic on their end of the film. So, yeah, I just keep getting scatterbrained. Well, first movie review on YouTube, and just saying my mind. I'm trying to keep this under 10 minutes, and we're at 3.5, so I'd say I'm doing okay. But, yeah, what was I going with this? The crossover, yeah. So we've all seen the meme, like the whole Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover event in history. Me, I disagree. Though, actually, I would say this is a really well-done crossover. Just because everything works so well off each other. And, I can't really say that the Guardians of the Galaxy were really the highlight of this movie. As much as I love those characters, it is my favorite MCU film, Guardians. But, yeah, they were definitely great. It was great seeing them. But, you know, they weren't really the key part. But seeing them interact with all these Marvel characters for the first time, you know, watching Chris Pratt going back and forth with the three, the Holland, Cumberbatch, Downey Jr., they're all really good. And I think that's really the standout thing about this movie, is the camaraderie. And it's at its best in this film. Because, you know, looking through the whole Avengers trilogy, if we're just isolating those films, you have the Avengers, which kind of introduce all these characters, or at least, you know, 4 or 5 of them. They all had to learn to get along. And then you had Age of Ultron, which ultimately my problem with that movie is that I feel like it really doesn't amount to anything besides being a pamphlet of info you need to know for Civil War. But, you know, these characters all know each other at this point. It's kind of a chance to see them in friendship before everything falls apart in Civil War. And then in Infinity War, you have everyone working together. Everyone is on their A game here, and it is amazing. But the big thing about this movie, the big thing everyone is going to be talking about this weekend, even though I'm probably not uploading this video onto YouTube till later in the run, but point is, the big thing everyone's going to be talking about is the really shocking things this movie did. And wow. The choices this movie made were really ballsy. And the question of whether or not this is going to pay off in the end, because I think a lot of people knew going in that several characters were going to die. And I'm not going to say any of those characters that are gone at the end of the film. But this battery low. Sorry, I had to charge my phone. So I'll probably wrap this up and just say my thoughts on this. But the Marvel way of doing this, it feels natural, but at the same time, it's just such an abrupt ending. And you really aren't expecting this. I was expecting a resolution, and then the film coming out next year would kind of be a continuation of it, and at the same time, its own little thing. But I gotta say, that whole last climax, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying this. There's a battle in Wakanda that involves most of the characters that are present in the film, not all of them. Stark isn't in this battle, Star-Lord's not there, Spider-Man, that whole group, they're up in a different area of the world dealing with Thanos, who I gotta say is not a great villain, but within the realm of this film is really effective. I don't think he's ever going to go down as kind of a Darth Vader kind of famous villain, or even a Loki who kind of becomes a cult figure after the film's release. But people will be talking about Thanos because he's such a big part of this whole story. But anyway, the battle in Wakanda, I gotta be really honest with you. My thing with Black Panther, it's a fantastic movie, but it's definitely the most serious and grounded in reality of the MCU films. So admittingly, it was actually a little off-putting seeing this largely fantasy-based battle take place in Wakanda after just 2 months ago we got this rather ground-to-earth film that still takes place in the MCU. But that's a nitpick, because it's a really cool 40 minutes of action. I actually lost track of how long the movie was, because it's 2.5 hours, but it goes by pretty fast. Like, I was looking at my clock about halfway through, and I'm, oh my gosh, we're already halfway through this thing? And we're getting pretty close to what resembles a climax within this story, that is. So, I would definitely recommend Infinity War. If you're a fan of the MCU films, you should definitely go see it. If you're even a fan of just any of the one characters, like if you only saw Guardians or only care about those movies, this is still worth the trip, because I really like those characters, and if you like seeing them again, you know, you get a little bit of everything in this movie. You get the comedy of Guardians, you get the atmosphere of Black Panther, you get a lot of Tony Stark quips, you get a lot of Tom Holland Spider-Man being Tom Holland Spider-Man in his geeky, adorkable way. But yeah, this is a great film. I wouldn't say it's my favorite MCU film, but I would definitely probably put it in a top 5 or at least a top 10. So that's pretty much all the thoughts I can really give on Infinity War off the top of my head. And if you like this, which I'm surprised if you do, I'm sure the dislike ratio will be fairly high to the likes, but that's just me being modest and incredibly self-aware about my low-quality videos. I'm going to try and do more of these stuff, you know, post-movie vlogs and maybe reviews of other things, and I would love to make higher quality videos down the line. So if you like this, subscribe, let me know anything you'd want me to talk about, and I will catch you all later.